This is Arcuz, one of the most popular and most complex RPG flash games ever made. A game developed by Out and first released in 2008, and today I'm going to review it. Released in what I would call the golden era of flash games, at which point the creations have evolved from simple platformers and RPGs, many of which used hand-drawn graphics, to more refined and more elaborate ensembles. Firstly, let's talk about appearance. Arcuz's artwork is in my opinion one of its strong points, as it fits the game very well and is also memorable. It also has numerous animations, most notable of which are the movement animation and the default attack animation, because they are simple yet fluid enough to make the game a little bit better, and also because they are the most frequent things that you'll be doing. Other little details include the fact that the character can go into the shade of the trees and into the walls of the game. The HUD and menu all look good, though a bit grainy, are well thought out, except for the fact that you only have 2 skill slots. More outraging is the fact that you have 2 arrows with which you can cycle through the 2 sets of skills. Wouldn't it have been easier to just put 2 more skill slots? I also need to point out that the GUI uses the Arial font, which doesn't quite fit with the style of the UI. Finally, there's the minimap, a feature that I'm going to praise because it doesn't take the approach of many other games, which make the map a window that takes your whole screen. Instead, it's a simple transparent window in the top right corner and is very useful in the context of Arcuz's maze-like world map. I forgot to mention the frame around the main screen that looks quite good in my opinion. Now we move on to the story and dialogue section. To be honest, before I started playing the game for the review, my nostalgia glasses were in full working order and I was expecting a good, if not cliché story about the hero that comes and saves the world, blah blah blah. And it was a cliché story, but not a good one. The story revolves around the hero that comes and saves the village from a big bad monster, and that's about it. The game is separated into chapters that give you a general insight on what you must do. Firstly, we must get the villagers' trust because reasons, and you get told that the monster problem is becoming worse and so on and so forth till you reach the final chapter. The quests are pretty rudimentary: kill a number of monsters or find a certain item, but the thing that bothers me the most is that the villagers get themselves in seemingly impossible situations. For instance, this one girl lost its teddy bear in what I will only describe as a wolf's nest, to which I had to grind for 2 hours to get it back. Dialogues are generally fine, although they have some grammatical mistakes here and there, but it makes it so that every villager has its little backstory. Next, we move on to the actual gameplay. Is the game fun at its core? And it certainly is, till one point. You see, the game manages to keep a good pacing at first, but about chapter 2 the game pretty much becomes Grind Simulator 2008 as enemies become much harder to fight and there is more of them. In the first 2 to 3 hours I've learned a couple of exploits, such as the fact that the level 1 slimes are the best enemies for getting money and items in general because you can easily kill them and there are so many of them in the first place. As I leveled up I noticed that the enemies are giving me reduced experience even though the amount I needed to level up grew exponentially, which I think is kind of stupid considering the small size of flash games. I mean, I couldn't force myself to play this game to finish it without using hacks, and even with those it took me about 2 hours to complete it. The problem I think relies in attack mechanics and the number of enemies on the screen. At one point you just die because the enemies would get you trapped in their attacks. Adding insult to injury, the only viable attacks were either skills that can glitch and not do anything if an enemy attacks you, or just jump attacks, and so the game became either very hard and grindy or hard and very grindy, depending on your tactic. The game also features an enchantment mechanic, which is an unwelcomed addition. To sum it up for you, you have to get small stones to make medium stones to make large stones to make overpowered items. And I like that it doesn't stop at just upgrading the item's defense or the attack stats, but you can also do the drop rate, the evasion, the block, or even elemental attributes. Continuing, let's talk about the world design, which, as I already mentioned, is maze-like. The worst part about the world map is not the fact that it reuses the same assets in every corner of the map, or the fact that the enemies could get stuck in trees or the walls, it's the caves. Oh boy, do I hate the caves. So, instead of an open area, you have narrow tunnels in which enemies can easily hit and stun you, and they also tend to confuse me very often for some kind of reason. Moving on, the level design is intuitive enough that I could find my way home with the help of the minimap for the most part. The last area is the sound category. You have the same hit sound, different sound effects for each enemy, and a soundtrack that, even though it's good at first, it gets very tiring after a while. And now it's time to give Arcuz a flash score. Starting with the gameplay, the game is fun in the early game but gets very boring later on, and so it gets a 6 out of 10. For level design, you get different levels for the most part with different things, but the caves are so bad that it gets a 6 out of 10. World design is good, but the locations of the map are so far apart that you spend a good chunk of time just going where you need to be, and so it gets a 6 out of 10. Dialogues are on par with other RPGs of its kind, and so it gets a 5 out of 10. Graphics are very good for the most part, and the inclusion of a minimap gets it an 8 out of 10. The story and quests are mediocre at best and subpar for the most time, and so it gets a 3 out of 10. Sound is pretty average, and so it gets a 5 out of 10. Sum it up and Arcuz gets a combined score of 38 out of 70. In conclusion, I can see how this is one of the most popular RPG Flash games, but I doubt that even 0.1% of the players actually finish the game. And with that, I finish my review. See ya!